More than 2,000 years ago, China's first emperor was buried inside a monumental underground complex unlike anything the ancient world had seen. Around his tomb, archaeologists discovered thousands of life-sized terracotta soldiers, horses, weapons, chariots, and other extraordinary objects. But the greatest mystery is still hidden beneath the ground. The central burial chamber of Qin Shi Huang has never been opened. Ancient records describe a vast underground palace filled with treasures and even rivers of liquid mercury. Modern research has confirmed unusually high mercury levels around the burial mound, adding another layer to the mystery. So what is actually inside the emperor's sealed tomb? And why, after decades of archaeological discoveries, are scientists still refusing to open it? The story became extraordinary in 1974 when local farmers digging a well near Xi'an uncovered fragments of a life-sized clay figure. Archaeologists soon realized they had found something enormous. Beneath the fields were vast underground pits containing thousands of terracotta warriors, horses, chariots, and weapons. Many of the soldiers stood in organized formations, as if prepared to defend the emperor in the afterlife. The figures were not identical copies. Their faces, hairstyles, clothing, and positions showed remarkable variation. But the most important discovery was not a single statue. It was the scale of the entire complex. The army was only one part of a much larger mausoleum surrounding the still-sealed tomb of Qin Shi Huang. But who was the man who ordered all of this? Qin Shi Huang became the first emperor to unify China in 221 BC. He created a centralized empire, standardized writing, weights, measurements, and currency, and ruled with extraordinary power. Yet he was also obsessed with his own mortality. Construction of his enormous mausoleum began decades before his death and continued until 210 BC. The complex was designed to reproduce an entire imperial world beneath the earth, with the emperor at its center. The Terracotta Army was therefore not simply a collection of statues. It was part of a much larger plan intended to protect the emperor and preserve his power in the afterlife. And that raises an extraordinary possibility. The sealed chamber beneath the mound may have been designed as an underground version of the emperor's own world. Building Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum was an enormous engineering project. Construction began when he was still a young ruler and continued for decades, until his death in 210 BC. Thousands of workers, craftsmen, soldiers, and administrators were involved in creating the complex. The site was not simply one underground room. It included walls, pits, burial chambers, ritual structures, workshops, weapons, animals, chariots, and the Terracotta Army. Archaeologists have identified hundreds of separate features across the enormous site. At the center stood the emperor's burial mound, while the surrounding structures created an entire funerary landscape. What survives today is only part of the original design, and much of what lies beneath the central mound remains unknown. What has already been recovered from Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum is astonishing. Archaeologists have uncovered thousands of life-sized terracotta soldiers and horses, along with chariots and enormous quantities of bronze weapons. But the discoveries go far beyond the famous army. Other pits contain acrobats, musicians, officials, animals, and objects connected with life at the imperial court. Two remarkable bronze chariots were also discovered near the mausoleum, each made in extraordinary detail. These finds suggest that the emperor's underground world was designed to reproduce much more than a military force. It included the people, animals, technology, and rituals that surrounded imperial power. And if the outer parts of the mausoleum already contain so much, the question becomes even more intriguing. What could still be waiting beneath the central mound? The most famous part of the complex is, of course, the Terracotta Army. But these thousands of soldiers were never meant to be ordinary statues. They were created as an underground military force surrounding the emperor after death. Infantrymen, archers, cavalrymen, officers, horses, and chariots were arranged in carefully organized formations. Their weapons provide direct evidence of how the Qin military was equipped and organized. Even the horses' harnesses and the soldiers' armor were reproduced in remarkable detail. The army therefore gives us something extraordinary, not just a collection of sculptures, but a physical snapshot of Qin military power more than 2,000 years ago. And yet, this vast army may represent only one part of the emperor's imagined world beneath the earth. One of the strangest details of the Terracotta Army is that the soldiers do not all look the same. Their faces, hairstyles, clothing, and military equipment vary from figure to figure. Some appear to be infantrymen, others archers, cavalrymen, or officers. Archaeologists believe the figures were produced using standardized techniques, but then received individual details by craftsmen. Their different appearances may have reflected military roles, ranks, or simply the artistic choices of the workshops that created them. Originally, the figures were also brightly painted, although much of the color disappeared after excavation. What we see today as an army of gray clay soldiers was once a much more colorful and visually striking underground force. The greatest mystery lies beneath the central burial mound. According to the ancient historian Sima Qian, the underground palace contained precious treasures and chambers designed to recreate the emperor's world. Most strikingly, he wrote that rivers of liquid mercury were created to represent the major waterways of the empire, with a mechanical system said to keep the mercury flowing. Modern scientists cannot simply enter the chamber to verify these details, but soil surveys around the mound have detected unusually high mercury concentrations, giving the ancient account an intriguing scientific clue. Still, researchers cannot say exactly what is inside. The central chamber remains unexcavated, so claims about its treasures, mercury rivers, or hidden mechanisms must be treated as possibilities, not established facts. So why not simply open the tomb and find out what is inside? The answer is preservation. Archaeologists already know how quickly ancient materials can deteriorate when they are exposed to modern air, humidity, and light. The painted surfaces of some terracotta warriors, for example, began losing their original colors after excavation. Inside the central tomb, there could be delicate materials that have survived for more than 2,000 years only because they have remained sealed. There is also the possibility of high mercury concentrations around the burial chamber. Modern technology can survey the site without opening it, but researchers still cannot guarantee that they could excavate the chamber without destroying something irreplaceable. For now, leaving the tomb sealed may actually be the safest way to preserve its secrets. More than 2,000 years after Qin Shi Huang was buried, his mausoleum remains one of archaeology's greatest unanswered mysteries. We know that an enormous complex surrounds the emperor, and that thousands of remarkable objects have already been discovered. We know that ancient historians described a vast underground palace, and modern science has found clues that make parts of those accounts difficult to dismiss completely. But the central chamber itself remains beyond our reach. Perhaps one day technology will allow archaeologists to explore it without destroying what has survived inside. Until then, the sealed tomb of China's first emperor remains exactly what makes it so fascinating. A place where history, archaeology, and unanswered questions still meet beneath the earth.